Good day, friends, and welcome to the next session on this subject of the role of astrology in understanding and studying marriage and relationships. In part one, we had tried to study the impact of different planets and grahas in the seventh house. Like I said at that time, there's a lot more to it, and this is a subject which would really bear a lot more investigation and discussions. So today we would look at the lordships involved. Which house lords being placed in the seventh house would give what kind of results? If the first lord, the Lagna lord, is placed in the seventh house, it would show that the native, that is you, would have a lot of impact, a lot of influence on the other, in this case, the other gender, or the marital partner, or the steady relationship partner. um, you would have a lot of investment into the relationship because your Lagna Lord is there. That is yourself. You're investing your core self in the relationship, and you are able to prevail on the relationship and influence the partner a lot. So this relationship is going to be very important in your life, and you would carry a lot of clout in the relationship. If the second Lord is in the seventh, it would mean that you would be investing your long-term assets, the other assets which sustain you, like your basic education, your family connections, your power of communication, your power of speech. These will be heavily invested in the seventh house, and in cases like this, it's often found that your financial wealth is attached to to your relationship. There are mutual investments, and you are bringing in money to the relationship. You're bringing in assets to the relationship. Now let's look at the Lord of the third house being present in seventh, what it does for you. The third house, as we know, is the house of efforts. Is the house of your personal skill, your hands-on, proactive efforts in life, your communication, your valor, your assistants, your siblings. These are the factors which one looks for in the third house. The third house is also the meeting house. Communication related to meeting, flirtation, texting, approaching, propositioning. These all come from the third house. So the third lord being in seventh makes for a very communicative relationship. Your approach to the relationship is very proactive. You communicate, you bring active energy, you make a lot of efforts on your own into this relationship. And sometimes you would find that the relationship would involve your colleagues, immediate colleagues, your neighbors, because these all are coming under the umbrella of the third house. Media comes under the third house, so in forming relationships, media and short texting would play a role. Now let's come to the fourth house. The fourth house is the house of familiar patterns in life, is the house of comfort and happiness, house of mother, childhood friends, uh, mid-level education. It also stands for your immediate community, your comfort levels in life, your home and hearth, your native land. So the fourth lord in the seventh, all these things come into the domain of the seventh. You bring in comfort into the relationship. You bring in assets, landed assets into the relationship, which doesn't mean that you kind of buy out the relationship, but yes, they would play a role in your relationships. You'll bring all your comfort and things which make you comfortable, things which are your own in terms of assets, and these assets are different from the second house assets, which are very fundamental to your existence. The fourth house assets are also important, but then they're different from the second house assets. In terms of the fourth house, is more about land and property and vehicles only. Um, it also, like I said, stands for childhood friends. So your friendship would play a role in your relationship, either the influence of a friend or the nature of the relationship with your spouse. Friendship would play a very important role there. And finally, the comfort aspect. You would like to make your relationship comfortable, familiar. You are not one who would get into a lot of experimentation, a lot of risk-taking behavior, a lot of unsettling, disruptive behavior in the relationship. Now let's come to the fifth house. The fifth lord being in the seventh, the house of talent, is the house of your personal IQ and the carry forwards of good karma from the last birth, which gives you your inspirations, it gives you your talent in this lifetime. Those come into the domain of the seventh and impact your relationships. So it means that usually you tend to form long-term relationships or tend to marry on your own volition. You have made the effort. You are marrying as per your choice. You have made the decision. You have liked your partner first, and then you have made it public. It's not the other way around, that it is through friends or family or the media. However, there is something between the fifth and seventh that's not very healthy. This is a subject for deep research, but empirically it has been found that the relationship is not good between fifth and seventh. So the fifth lord being in seventh or the seventh lord being in fifth has its own tale of woes, has its own negative impact on the relationship. That has been seen in many instances. Yes, you would marry as per your choice. You would be proactive. You would uh, be able to settle down or be able to be together with the partner of your choice. But then the outcome is usually not always good. Now let's look at the role of the sixth lord in seventh. Now this is something which is rather dicey. Sixth is the 12th from seventh, which means the dissolution of agreement. It's when your original relationship, the agreement, and the assumptions and the deal which you had made, which you had brought to the relationship, that dissolves. That kind of that goes away over a period of time. It could be sudden or it could be through a particular jolt. That will depend on the specific planets involved here. For example, if Saturn is involved, if Saturn is the culprit, Shani, it'll be a slow process of drudgery, that the agreement comes unstuck through a long process of chronic conflicts and disagreements. If it's Mars, things will happen fast. If it's Mercury, then communication would be responsible. The pursuit of variation would be responsible. Similarly, other planets would bring in their own energies. But sixth lord in the seventh would lead to chronic disagreements. It would lead to a lot of dispute. It may even lead to separation. If not, it would lead to deaths and disease coming into and vitiating the relationship. However, these people would be able to conduct a relationship under trying times if the nature of the planet supports it. It won't be a bed of roses, but then the couple would gel well through, in a situation of conflict which is not of their own making, let's say in wartime, or during a natural disaster, or during financial stress. They would be able to pull together, where another couple may have their relationship may have gone asunder. Now let's look at the role of the seventh lord being in its own house in seventh. What happens then? A person with the seventh lord in the seventh is heavily invested in agreements and relationships. The person is a natural. The seventh lord being in seventh, the person is a natural. He lives for relationships. It comes naturally to the person. Now, depending on the nature of the planet, the relationship would be steady, but not necessarily lasting forever. I have seen someone with seventh lord in the seventh, not someone, plenty of people with seventh lord in the seventh who have been separated or divorced. So, even though the person wants to stay together, relationships are serious stuff for the person, but then depending on the nature of the planets involved, one has to take a second call on that. Seventh lord in the seventh, if you go beyond the marital relationship and go to partnerships, then yes, in foreign trade, in partnerships, the person would be lucky, or the person would be able to have business partners in steady relationships, steady commercial relationships, would be able to get into import and export deals with foreign trade, subject to other influences in the horoscope. If the person's monetary and professional fate is not good otherwise, then of course you cannot predict very good things coming out of a seventh lord in the seventh on the business front. But other things supporting Lagna, ninth, 10th, etc., these planets, these houses supporting, yes, seventh lord definitely um, would show success in foreign trade, in transactions with international vendors and clients, as well as partnership deals. Let's look at eighth house being in seventh. Now, this surely is a deal breaker. Eighth house is the house of major changes in life, transformation, cataclysmic changes, negative changes, sudden explosion of secrets and of hidden stuff, which can light fire under a rocket, and it can break the relationship fast, depending on the nature of the planet. Like I said, if the eighth lord seventh, eighth lord is Shani, it's Saturn, and it's in seventh. The relationship will be more slow moving. The disputes and the breakage would be much more slow moving. It may not break after all. It may just drag on into misery. Let's say if you have Karkat Lagna and your eighth lord is in seventh, in that case, of course, it's also the seventh lord. Shani is the seventh lord. So for Karkat Lagna, seventh Shani would give a very different result than, say, in some other Lagna, where, let's say, Mithun Lagna, where eighth lord Shani is in the seventh. There, again, in Mithun Lagna, Shani is also the ninth lord. Because of dual ownership, these things get diluted. So, ninth lord in the seventh gives very good results, particularly on the material front. It's a lucky marriage. Financially and materially, it's very lucky. But it being eighth lord, it will also be having its downside, and major downside, not just downside, major downside. The effect of the eighth lord in the seventh house is not just about overt stuff, overt conflict or sudden happenings which would bring the relationship under stress and change the dynamics. But then eighth lord is also hidden stuff. It's a Randhra house. It's an aperture which goes deep under the surface, invisible stuff. Now, so eighth lord in seventh would being a lot of hidden dimensions to the relationship which are not known from outside, which others who don't know, maybe the partners or one of the partners also may not be aware of. They may be revealed and they may vitiate the relationship, or one might live with them in the long run. There might be some agenda, there might be some factor in the marriage which is not visible at all to the outside world, or even to one of the spouses. Some hidden stuff in the relationship, and the relationship still carries on. Now let's come to the effect of the ninth lord in the seventh. Like I just said, ninth lord in the seventh is one of the best positions possible. It shows a lucky marriage. It shows a financially and materially prosperous marriage. It shows marrying up in some sense. You are lucky with the partner's family, the partner's social status and background. It might also show that the partner is coming from, it's an international marriage, a good international marriage, lucky international marriage. Now let's go to the effect of the 10th lord in the 7th house. The 10th lord, the 10th house is the house of larger society, is the world at large, it's a professional world, it's the house of status, the house of recognition. So it's a very public marriage, public relationship. 10th lord in the 7th. The entire world is somehow involved. There's no hide and seek. It's not a very private relationship. It's a much publicized marriage, a much publicized relationship. That can be for the better or for the worse, which will depend on other factors, on other planets. There might also be a professional angle. You might have met the spouse at your place of work. You stepped out and the person may not be working in your office or in your business, but it might be a contact you have developed through your workplace responsibilities. Now let's come to the effect of the 11th lord in the 7th house. The 11th house is the professional network, the social network. It's professional friends, acquaintances, and colleagues, business clients. It's also the larger world outside, the complex network in the workplace, in the complex network in the marketplace. That's a better word for it. So a lot of contacts, a lot of connectivity. Okay, this would make it a very social marriage in terms of networking, in terms of you have got to know your partner or met your partner in a big event with a lot of strangers were there. There were a lot of people you know little, whom you have met through work. You've gone out on work into in a town hall meeting. You have gone out and you are part of a very big seminar, or you have been, you went to business dealings and you have met her in a client's office. So that kind of a dimension may come into it, or the marriage was arranged through remote network. It's not through immediate family. Someone knew someone, again knew someone through. It's kind of a indirect network. The relationship may have come to you. Finally, we look at the effect of the 12th lord in the 7th house. 12th is a house of dissolution. It's the house of privacy. It's the house of loss. It's the house of expenditure. It's the house of seclusion. So that coming into the 7th house would mean that how the relationship is subject to loss, subject to distance, long distance relationship. You have met your spouse or your partner while traveling distant lands, or if the relationship may get lost. 12th house, 12th lord in the 7th. The relationship may drift away and become more remote, and slowly kind of you lose contact with a person and it's gone. Or there may be a lot of expenditure involved, a lot of expenses. Keeping up with a long distance relationship would involve a lot of expenses, or even otherwise. Or you may have met the spouse or met the partner not just in an international context at a remote place, but also in a confined place, in a hospital, in a prison, in a monastery, in a confined space, in a hermitage. So, friends, these are the effects of different house lord space being placed in the 7th house. Next time we would look at the effect of the seventh lord placed in different houses, and then we would go into other things like aspects and drishtis, nakshatra placements, navamshas, etc. I hope this was useful to you, and like always, I would look forward to your feedback. Thank you.